Everything works. If it exists, it works. If it exists, it's part of the evolving ecology. It's part of reality because it's a winner. Life, reality, is constantly iterating and has been iterating from, in our current mythology, the moment of the Big Bang. From the very moment that the entirety of the reality we know was compressed into less than the size of a single garden pea, to the present time, in a long cycle that may well have trillions of years of evolution ahead of it. Life has been having sex with itself, differentiating, separating, growing longer, bigger in space-time, every single moment of its existence, becoming more specialized, developing new patterns of energy that have sex with itself to create yet newer patterns of energy. And most of those patterns die off. Most of those patterns that life gives birth to do not replicate. A dandelion sends out 1,000 seeds. About 1% take root and send out another 1,000 seeds. And those are a pattern that is sustainable. But there are many other mutations that die off. 99% of all patterns of life on this planet have already died off, and what remains are the winners. What remains are the patterns of energy that can reproduce more efficiently, more sustainably than any other pattern. So we're dealing right now with the 1%, with the 1% that made it. Now, this isn't just biologically. We are dealing with the 1% of biological patterns that made it. This is also psychologically. Right? Self-pity made it. Control made it. Whatever you can name that you claim exists and that comes into being by naming it is part of the 1%. Narcissism made it. Arrogance made it. Self-importance made it. Self-pity made it. Being smart made it. Being dumb made it. Being ugly made it. Being sexy made it. Whatever you can see and name is part of the 1% that made it. That is the current winner. And it would not exist, and it does not exist, unless it can further the agendas, the flow, both of evolution, but also of, in our framework, the individual. We're looking at the domain of the relationship with the reptilian brain, the relationship with the rational brain, with the empathic brain, with the transcendent brain. They exist because they're winners. And our relationship with each one of them, primarily rooted in the reptilian brain. I mean, most of human behavior has a foundation in the reptilian brain. The reptilian brain is the oldest brain, the fight, flight, freeze, please protocol. Run from what's bigger than you, consume what's smaller than you, freeze if Neither of those protocols are expedient. Please do some ass licking if someone that's a bigger pattern of energy will take care of you as long as you'll take care of them. This is all reptilian. It's sociopathic. It's doing what's necessary to survive. Right? Then we move into rational self-interest. The reptilian brain with I'll scratch your back if you do this. I won't hit you if you don't hit me, right? But if you break that rule, then all the gloves come off, right? And so it's a reptilian with a rational overlay, right? You can trust me to do what's in my best interest, and I can trust you to do what's in your best interest because you're a reptile and I'm a reptile. And so we can partner in such a way that, the money changes hands, that the, gangs can do business together, right? Because of enlightened or the rational overlay of the reptilian protocol. And it works, right? Capitalism, rational reptile. It works. Communism, right? Irrational reptile, right? You have to give all your stuff to this central authority or you will die. Reptile. It's not entirely rational when it's not working very well, right? But rational reptile, rational reptile. So these protocols are here because they work. What Lazaris calls negative ego is here because it works better than no ego, right? It's all on a continuum, right? So everything that exists works. Everything that you can name exists in part because the one who names it creates it. You can look at this and you can name it in different ways. You can describe the void, right? You can measure and describe the void, and you can say this exists as a void, and you can measure everything else. Or you can give this a name and call it a finger, right? And you see it. Why? Because you've been trained to look at it and say, what is a finger? Well, it's that point, right? But right? If you name something else, subatomic particles, well, suddenly it's not a point. It's a vibrating hive, right? If you take away the word finger, you realize fingers don't exist. How can a finger exist? Because this doesn't exist without everything else. And this doesn't exist without everything else. Makes no sense. What's this word finger? You can't separate this little point of energy from the rest of the energy. And if you can't separate it, what's all this stuff about calling it a finger and that's not a finger, when the finger depends on everything else? Right? So whatever you name, you can create. So love works, unconditional love. Conditional love works, hate works, fear works, pain works. Everything works, right? And it's on a continuum. Every single thing that is present here today, as we think of those words, will be radically transformed in 1 trillion years. Everything that is here today will be radically transformed in 1 trillion years to an unrecognizable degree. Or another way of saying that is that it will not exist, and what will be filling the universe, the multiverse, are completely different forms, except that any observer with a scientific protocol could follow the transformation, the movement of the form from this form today, right? Just like we can follow the transformation of the universe from something this big until it's this big, right? As big as it is today, right? 1 trillion years from now, every bit of energy that exists today throughout the universe will continue to have sex with itself in all kinds of different ways, creating things we cannot currently imagine, creating a new vessel for imagination, transforming imagination into a new lens of interaction, so that something different than imagination and something different than the human brain will be observing something different in everything else. That's where we're heading 1 trillion years from now. 95% of all language has died off. Really, if we look far enough, 99% of all the languages that human beings have ever spoken are now dead. There's one or fewer people left speaking those languages on the planet, which suggests that 1 million years from now, every language of the roughly 550 languages currently spoken on the planet today by more than 1 or 2 people will all be extinct as well. The languages will be extinct, which means the paradigms and the thoughts will be extinct. The bodies, in probably less than 1 billion years, all of the bodies, from wolves to owls to eagles to crocodiles, one of the oldest forms present today, are only around 200 million years old. 1 billion years from now, transformation, no longer recognizable. And that will be what survived from today. Of all the things that had sex in the universe, of all the many things, reptilian things, sociopathic things, empathic things, transcendent things, of all the consciousness that engages with all the other consciousness, those will be the winners 1 billion years from now. 1 billion years ago, what was present was the winners. In every moment, only the winners are present. And one moment leads to another moment. The next moment cannot happen without the moment before it, because they are connected, because the time is an illusion. It's part of an ecology. The negative cannot exist without the positive. The positive cannot exist without the negative. Why? Because they are connected. They are an ecology. Because without language, they don't even exist. They're inseparable. You don't have black without white. It's just an idea of separation, right? And the idea of separation works, or it wouldn't be here. Right? There were many other ideas of connectedness, of transcendence, of nonverbalness. Right? Those exist too. They also work, or they wouldn't be there. This works. So I was noticing a discrepancy between this and what Lazaris is saying. And Lazaris would not be here if they didn't work, right? If what Lazaris brings, what Lazaris says, what Lazaris does, had no role or couldn't beat out the other 99%, Lazaris wouldn't be here. Lazaris is here because Lazaris works, right? Some number of millions and now some number of thousands of people give energy to the relationship with Lazaris. They give time, they give money, they give natural resources. They'll get on a plane and spend jet fuel to get from one place to another to go to a Lazaris event, because at some level it works. And it does. What Lazaris says works for a certain number of people. It's a waning trajectory, meaning probably 1% of all the people who have heard about Lazaris or had some little exposure, maybe they saw Lazaris on television one time, or probably about 1% still have some energy expenditure in their relationship with Lazaris. So 1% of all the people exposed to Lazaris are still doing something with Lazaris. For the other 99%, something else worked better. Right? A Chris Rock show works better for them for what they're trying to do than a Lazaris event. So they go and see Chris Rock, and they haven't seen Lazaris in years. Chris Rock works. Right? Dave Chappelle works. Right? And other performers, they worked once and now they don't work. People don't want to go see them. They want to see this, right? New and improved, right? So everything that exists, to the extent that it exists, works, is a winner, right? And there are trajectories of the bell curve of adoption, the tiny little group that first seeds something, and then usually if it has any success of whatsoever, you get a flowering, you get a more adoption, and then eventually it dies out. Right? The landline is on its way out in its current iteration. But so are cell phones, right? They're in their mass adoption period, but a billion years from now, there will not be a single cell phone, right? The technology will be outdated. The idea will be outdated, right? The bodies that want to communicate, these bodies will be outdated. The planet may be outdated. Oh, let's be over in this planet over here, right? A billion years from now, cell phones will be 100% outdated, using radio frequencies. What a ridiculous waste of time, right? Why heat up the brain? Oh, no. Let's do this instead. And someone who still tries to call nobody who doesn't have a cell phone will be, what are you thinking of? We've gotten rid of those long time ago. But everything now exists, everything now works. Self-pity works. How? Well, it's comforting, helps to respond to loneliness, helps to focus on one's self, helps to secure pity or attention. It works better than being invisible, right? So here it is, right? And self-importance. When you feel very insecure and small, and I don't know if I can do this, and I'm not sure I can go to this party, and I'm just in this state, and then people start treating me that way. That person's shy and weird, just ignore them, right? Then you become self-importance, right? Hey, look at me, I got a new hat, I did this, and then it's like, oh, people like that. So to the extent that it exists is to the extent that it works. It's like, oh, maybe I'm not a loser after all. I just need to compensate for my feeling of inadequacy by performing, right? But then it stops working, right? Stops working, right? Because then you get to a certain strata, right? It works to go from here to here, but then now that I'm trying to go from here to here, now I have people criticizing self-importance. That's self-importance. Lazaris said that that's the one, That's self-pity and self-importance are the source of all negativity. Negativity is, no, you don't want that. Why? If negativity is here, it works. You don't want it. It's not spiritual. Well, what's spiritual? It's the relationship with all that is. God got us all that is. Well, that presumably, if it's here, includes negativity. I don't want to be that, right? That Lazaris says that's not the good one, right? So that doesn't work, right? So I'm not self-important. I don't have any self-pity, right? So hiding works, lying works. You'll find a tremendous amount of deceit and shame in the Lazaris community. Right? It's easier to succeed than it is to fail, but I'm failing. I'm going to hide it, right? I'm going to arrive in a nice, overexpensive car that I can't afford, that I can rent, right? Because I'm with it, I'm creating my reality, right? So deception works. Why? You feel better when you deceive other people, to pretend that you're with it, right? It works, been going on. I'm a good Christian. I'm a good Buddhist. I'm not with those Christians. I'm a good atheist. Say, I have nothing to, my parents call, they say, bless you. I say, I have nothing to do with them, right? See, I'm a good atheist. So that works. Why? How do you know it works? Because the vast majority of people, probably 99% of people, are busily trying to pretend, or busily pretending, that they are part of this demographic and not that demographic. Right? Oh, I like LGBTQ people, right? Black Lives Matter, right? I put the sign in. I don't want anyone breaking my window. Right. So it works. Or that's why people are doing it, right? I work with my higher self every day. No, I don't really know what that is, but that got a smile, right? So it works. Deception is alive and well as a meme, as a viral pattern of energy, because it makes people comfortable. Makes women comfortable to say you're going to marry and love them forever. It works if you want to have sex, right? How do you know it works? Because people are doing it. Why are people doing it? Because it works. Right? And trying to change the system. That's a bad system, right? Hey, women, stop having sex with people who promise to love you forever. And then you'll stop being lied to all the time. That works better. Stop it, right? There are some people doing that, right? And that works for what? A certain moral superiority? I'm one of the people that doesn't, no, I'm not one of those. I'm one of these. I stand back. I'm not part of the fray. I know I could have a lot more sex doing this and this, but no, I'm not doing that. I'm meditating, right? And it's like, oh, you're the spiritual type. I've been trying to find a spiritual type to have sex with, right? So that works too, right? To whatever degree it works, it will be represented in the bell curve of adoption. And it's all flawed, meaning there's always a better way. And it's all successful, meaning 99%, really 99.9%, but 99.9% of all the other patterns that used to be are dead. All the other cults, all the other cultures are dead. Meaning this cult, this culture, is the winner. In that creative collaboration, in that competitive conquest, whatever your paradigm, life has tumbled around and produced this moment as the fruit, as the synergy of all the other moments. Life has tumbled around and created this paradigm, these lenses of perception, from all the other ones. They evolved into this. So a few billion years from now, certainly a trillion years from now, absolutely nothing we see today will be recognizable, and the observing and measuring devices, even if they remained, couldn't recognize it, and the observing and measuring devices will be unrecognizable, meaning both the lens and the energy, and very possibly the illusion of separation between the two, will transcend, will evolve, will be unrecognizable a trillion years from now. Right? Pain may no longer exist. Fear may no longer exist. All fear is fear of pain. Right? Will all transform into something different. I think part of that evolution, part of that step, is acknowledging the sacred path of the entire continuum. Domination is sacred. Control is sacred. Whatever you classify is sacred, so including you create the negative ego. It's an illusion, right? The negative ego is distinct in the paradigm, in language, from the positive ego. Could the negative ego exist if the ego didn't exist? Seems a bit of a stretch. Could the positive ego exist if the ego didn't exist? Seems a bit of a stretch. Could the North Pole exist if there was no South Pole? It's a bit of a stretch, right? Now, roots don't exist without branches. Branches don't exist without roots. So anytime you describe a polarity, first of all, you have to cut the one into two. That's an illusion. Second of all, the two are equal. When you cut the one into a polarity, you have two equal halves. So the positive ego, the negative ego, two equal halves. Secondly, you cannot get to wholeness. You cannot integrate without putting the two halves back together. You can't integrate your mind with reality without putting them together. And thirdly, both parts of the illusionary polarity would not exist without being necessary, without winning over all the other things, right? Of all the trillions upon trillions upon trillions of sexual experiences that life has had with itself. This molecule has sex with that molecule, and something interesting happens. Now there's a third molecule. This sex has sex with that sex, and nothing happens. Or that sex has sex with this, and there's this weird little thing, and it lasts only a few days, and then that just dies out. It wasn't a very effective pattern. But these things have sex, and it's part of the 1%. It goes on to have sex again and again and again and again and again, part of the 1%. And then of the one, then all of those probability fields have sex again and again, and there's another 1%, and then that goes on. The other ones die out. At least through the lens that we're looking, evolution. Life has been having sex with life, and the winner, the most efficient, the most intelligent forms go on. And we're it. Rats are it, right? Highly effective. Mice, rats, dogs. They're the smart ones. They're the intelligent ones. Right? Fat people in the United States, right? busily digesting emotions, dealing with all kinds of things. It's been wonderful, right? I've put on 15 pounds to numb the hurt when my wife betrays me because I haven't figured out a better way of doing it, right? So I'm now 15 pounds fatter, and I feel better when I do that than when I just feel small and helpless and don't know what to do, right? So that's the winning meme, right? So more people are getting fatter every single year, it seems like. We're still on that trend. So eating to manage anxiety and hurt and pain is the winning pattern for now, right? As opposed to the alternatives that we've developed so far, right? And eventually, like all patterns, like all winning patterns, the success becomes the problem. Now we have a new problem, like we solved the betrayal, anxiety, hurt, lonely pattern. We solved that problem with eating. But now we have another problem. We're dying off sooner. Our medical bills are going up. We have a new problem, right? So then we'll solve that, right? And life will continue to be the winning pattern. Always, right? Now, when I just said that, it hurt. My body hurt when I said those words about being betrayed. So that's not a winning pattern, right? So most people won't say that. Most people will criticize other people and not point out their own mistakes because that feels better. So that's alive and well. So I'm part of a minority that will probably die off for being as candid about my own inadequacies or flaws as about other people, because it's so much more fun to get together and criticize other people than to acknowledge that there's not really any separation and we all have at least as much to criticize inside if that's what we want to do. And criticism is a meme because it also works, right? Criticism creates motivation. Shame is still alive and well. It works very well, right? People do enormous things, get operations, do this, do that, spend tens of thousands of dollars, frantically work in a rat race in order to avoid shame. And so shame being such a powerful motivator, if you can just do advertisements that shame people, that they have to buy your product to escape their shame, then your business will explode. And it does, right? It's wonderful, wonderful. Businesses right and left exploiting shame because shame works. It's a very, very powerful technology. Shame is here because it's a winner. Control is here, a winner. Domination, lies, they're all winners, right? Every one of them are creating successes and eventually and at the same time creating problems. And you need a new technology, a new protocol of thinking, feeling, speaking, doing, and being that's more successful than the old protocol, right? But being virtuous in the sense to such an extent that one dies out as a pattern of energy. If you feel superior or if you feel like this is the way, then you can, that wins too, right? There's plenty of people. This is the right thing to do, and I'm going to kill myself doing it, and because that's the right thing to do. And there will be a certain percentage of people that say, bravo. They usually won't give you any money or help you solve that, but they'll say, what a lot of character. Go on, die, doing that. But of course, martyrhood works. Christianity is alive and well, right? Martyrhood is here because it works. He died for our sins. Let's give us some more money, It works, or it wouldn't be here. It's still working very well. New innocent child in the world trying to learn things. Here's his guy 2,000 years ago. He died for you. Impressive, eh? Right? You won't give your toy to your brother, but look at those nails. Look at them. Do you feel guilty now? Right? Well, give your toy to your brother. Works wonderfully. Guilt, shame, pain. I'm going to beat you. Now do you want to do what I told you to do? Oh, you do? Wonderful. Wonderful. So trauma, PTSD, shame, terror, loneliness, they all work. They're all the winners that are part of the current set. They're part of the current reality. And they're all losers. 1 trillion years from now, losers, right? The success of today is the problem of tomorrow in an evolutionary paradigm, right? That's why evolution never stops. That's why life never stops, right? And you can be ahead of the curve, right? And you don't get any funding and nobody understands you, but wow, but you get to be praised to be a genius, right? Particularly after you're dead. Artist Van Gogh was ahead of his time. $26 million, please, for this painting. Yeah, but he couldn't afford soup, right? He knew, this was wonderful, wonderful, but right? Nobody else knew, right? So you're ahead of your time. Oh, what do you want to be? Do you want to be remembered as ahead of your time, or do you want to be able to buy soup, right? Obviously, a lot more people prefer soup, right? So there's one Van Gogh, and a lot of people in the rat race doing crappy stuff they know is crappy because they get soup, right? So that's, all of this works is, I guess, the thing that's the crux of this video. Everything that is works. Everything that is part of everything else. Everything that is inextricably connected with the observer. It doesn't exist if you can't see it, and it does exist if you can see it, right? And language is the art. It's the art form of taking the one and dividing it into pieces, right? Start off with the whole. Usually you start with dividing it into a polarity. The favorite meme for some time is good and evil, right? The good ones and the bad ones. That I like that, I don't like that is what it boils down to. So there's good and evil, and then once you've delineated the thing, I like that, I don't like that, so I like that a little bit, so then you start breaking it into gradations, right? Nobody likes being shocked, and so I want language to pin it down. That's good for this reason, and that's bad for that reason. But you notice you can draw these lines. These lines are called words. You can draw these lines like a puzzle. You can break reality into a puzzle, or you can break them into any number of other things. You can draw these lines in any way you want, right? You can call this a finger, or you could call this a finger. You could call this a hand and not go into the fingers. Or you could call this a 1/1,000,000th of 1/1,000,000th subatomic particle over here and not call it a finger, right? You can slice and dice it any way you want. This line are all arbitrary, right? Which is why, there have been so many languages and then they die out. And as soon as the language dies out and the paradigm dies out, you don't see something. You see something else. You create a new paradigm. You slice it up a different way, right? Then you see that slice, right? Every slice creates consciousness, right? Because our consciousness is resting on the foundation of thought, and you cannot think a single thought without language, right? So you want to be conscious of something, you have to put it into words. You want to remember something, you have to put the memory into words. Otherwise, it doesn't exist. What memory? Well, it was when I was 6. Oh, okay, I'll get into that area. At my house, I get into that area. Oh, now I remember it. I reassemble the memory. I locate it in my body. I'm there now. I put it together with language, right? Now, if I said, now I am then, well, what's that? It's a new word. It doesn't mean anything, right? No, you have to correlate the word with some reference point that you have in your memory. It's all one until it's cut up into words. It's all unconscious until it has language, right? The language is always changing, you know. First you think fat, that's the bad stuff. No. But now it's the good stuff again, right? You need to eat butter, brain fat. That's the good fat. Now that's the bad fat. No, but that has a use there, right? Those are the bad people. Those are the outcasts. No, but they have a point, don't they? Right? So Lazaris is using the paradigm of duality because it works. Lazaris is using the paradigm of shame and fear and pain because it works. There are plenty of Lazaris friends that listen to a Lazaris tape and feel anxious they're not doing it good enough, that feel like, I'm probably a negative ego, because that works, right? Then they go out and buy more Lazaris tapes and attend more events and try and do the exercise so that they're not one of the bad ones, right? And then they grow in the process. And when you grow, hopefully, right? Hopefully, you're part of the next wave of winning in the iterative sex process of life having sex with itself, 99% dying off at any given point, and 1% blossoming into the new thing. And it's a constant process. Human history, science, religion is one series of another of realizing we got it wrong. Crusades, killing people to turn them into Christians, we got it wrong. Racism, we got it wrong. Chauvinism, we got it wrong. Elitism, capitalism, we got it wrong, right? There isn't a single long-term enterprise that you can't look at that doesn't radically change, that you can't say we got that wrong. What? No women priests, we got that wrong. Got this wrong, right? Going off to meditate and be with spiritual people to try and repress their ego, we got that wrong, right? Every construct, every system is wrong. And it's part of the iterative process, right? Because, to succeed is to arrive where you began and recognize it and see it in a new light, is to complete the circle and realize you were wrong, and then complete it again and realize you were wrong again, right? So being wrong works and leads to new insight. New insight works, but pursuing insight is wrong too, right? You got to do things, right? It's all wrong, it's all right. It's all okay, it's not okay. Nothing is okay. Ants torturing trees and eating their leaves, poor things. It's not okay. Look at me, eating to manage my pain. It's not okay. Being betrayed is not okay. But of course, why does my wife betray me? Why does she say, I will definitely do that. I promise, I will definitely do it. I fell asleep. Why does she do that? Because it works, right? It's easier, right? And why does she, right? Okay, why does she, if we're going to get a divorce, my goodness, fine, I won't go to sleep. I'll do the thing, Yeah, do it, right? See, that works too, right? Being held accountable works, right? But running around, you've got to be accountable. It's tiring, isn't it? It doesn't work. It works. It doesn't work. So we do it sometimes. We don't do it others. We lie sometimes. We don't lie other times. Right? Telling the truth works. Lying works. It all works if it's here. It's all part of the 1%. And 99.9% of it will all be gone in less than a trillion years. Perhaps less than a billion years. Certainly the cultures will all, in 30,000 years, more than 10,000 cults will all come, thought they were the one and all, the one and only, and now they're nowhere to be found, right? They were the winners, and then they weren't, right? So Lazaris is working with these paradigms. Now, obviously, arguing with Lazaris works, or I wouldn't be doing it. enjoying Lazaris works, or I wouldn't be doing it. It all works, and it doesn't work, right? So it's finding that playfulness. Works, it doesn't work, this. It's finding that playfulness with what is. It's learning to be highly conditionally loving. That works. I'm only going to love you if you do this, this, and this, and this. Okay, you're not doing that, get out. Okay, and you want to play the role? Okay, do this, this, this. That works, right? Up to a point, right? I have to maintain all those roles, but it also works to just say, I feel great today. Today's a great day. Reality is, I love it. I love reality. It is. Here we are. This is all real. All this stuff, you know. Sex trafficking, poison, death, life, good food, disgusting food, chemical agriculture, organic agriculture. It's all here. It's all part of the current round of winners. That'll all be dead in a few billion years. Those patterns will all be changed, including us, including our judgments. Judgments work because they're here. Nothing works perfectly, right? Do the 33-second technique over and over and over again, and sometimes it doesn't work half as well as, saying, I think it's time for us to end this relationship. Took less than 33 seconds. Only worked once, right? And there it went, right? And doors closed, doors open. Good, bad, right? I've solved my problem. I have a new problem. The paradigm of problems is getting boring. I'm always working on problems. What about joy? So I let go of that and find something else. Everything here is a winner. Everything here is part of life. All the old things that we like to judge and, those criminal, racist bigots in our past, in our ancestry, they're all the tools that we use to get here. Here doesn't exist without them. So we cannot dissociate ourselves intelligently. We can do so intelligently, and that political correctness works. Just watch it. You got canceled, you didn't. You played the game. That works, right? Games work. But at a true physics level, right? If you could really cancel your ancestors, all of whom did all these unpolitically correct things. This great-great-grandfather raped 3 teenage girls. Raped them, right? And then your mother was born. And then her kid was all fucked up from that. But then a saint was born, right? And then you were born, right? However you describe yourself. Misfit, saint, whatever. Do you go back and you stop the rape? You don't exist. Nor does the saint. Nor does the troubled second child, right? Stop this rape immediately. Rape worked, right? A lot of animal behavior looks a bit like rape. Someone comes over, doesn't ask for permission. The chicken finally gives up. Fine, have your way with me, right? That works, right? And then what we're doing today, the game playing, the misogyny, the whole ridiculous psychological illiterate protocol, it works too. Right? There will be no more generations if this batch doesn't have kids. In a few generations down the line, what were they thinking? They just let any old parent with undiagnosed trauma have kids? They didn't know that there's a 99% chance they're going to give their child PTSD. What were they thinking? What indeed, right? But The smart people that can think all that are going to be born, right, from the traumatized, shame-based fools we produce today. Right? And then they'll be able to look back. But again, if they killed us off, how would they be there to criticize their ancestors, right? The extra wokes. So it is. Whatever is here is. Whatever is here is part of the 1% that's winning out of billions of years of evolution. And it'll all be dead. It will all be different tomorrow. Well, I think that's worth mentioning. So here it is.